So today's topic is perception. One of the things that I've realized about a lot of people that I interact with, in particular males, okay? And this is not, I always have to preface myself because people get so defensive so quickly without listening. They immediately go into response mode as if they have to come back with something as opposed to listening, right? So when I say perception, and that I noticed in males that it's a little bit worse than others, let me explain to you what I mean by that, okay? Because, I'm here to share knowledge so that you may learn. I'm hoping that the things that I share will be received with open ears, open eyes, and an open heart because, again, I am love. I'm not out here face all squinched up and my eyebrows caved in looking angry, and I don't yell or use profanity or sound disgruntled. I'm not complaining or talking about other people in a bad way. Everything that I deliver, if you listen to everything that I deliver, it's always positive. It's always loving. It's always from a nurturing, caring, supportive position. So if you are listening to me, Fatima, the goddess, Aliara, okay, if you're listening to me, then anything that you listen or that you hear should automatically be comprehended from the highest possible vibration or energy, okay? Meaning that don't automatically assume that I'm just going in on you. I've been told that you just went in on me, and I'm like, really? What did I do so bad but share with you something that I observed and explain to you why I'm sharing it? Because I don't just do anything without explaining why I'm doing it first. I've always been that way. Everybody that I know will always, this is their response every single time when I'm trying to make sure that they understand what I'm saying. You ain't got to explain yourself. You ain't got to explain yourself. You don't have to preface with anything. You don't have to lead with anything. Just say what you got to say. Say what you want to say. And I'm like, but yes, I do, because you may not understand what I'm saying. And you know what their response is? What, you trying to say I don't understand? I can understand just fine. I'm not dumb. I'm not stupid. And you see what I mean? This is what I mean by perception. And males have it bad because for some reason they have this PTSD thing going on that is either unconscious or conscious, that they know about or don't know about, where they always assume that someone is coming at them, that someone is attacking them, whether it's verbally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically, financially, spiritually, whatever. Their first assumption is that it's a negative thing and it's targeted at them personally. This is the perception of the male species, of the darker skinned shades that I'm referring to, okay? And it doesn't matter what part of the world. It's like they have this ego pride thing that just totally causes their ears to shut down when they are being shared something of value. And because I don't know why they do that, but they don't hear what you're saying, and especially when it comes to me, they don't hear what I'm saying, so immediately they throw me in the same bucket as if I'm one of the people who they might have suffered, some type of, abuse of some sort, whether it was verbal abuse, whether it was physical abuse, whether it was emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or whatever, even financial abuse. Do you know that I come across guys who may have been super, super generous to, their previous girlfriends, but by the time they get to me, they're stingy and they don't want to hardly, do too much or spend too much, right? And I'm like, this person talks about how generous they are and all the stuff they've done for people, but I don't really see it, personally, right? So, and that's what I'm thinking. I don't say it out loud or anything, but it's my observation, right? And interestingly, if I do bring it up, then they get defensive about that. But it's the truth. And what I usually discover is that, it'll come out like, oh yeah, that person used me. I got used by these people in the past. They used me for my money, or they talked like this to me, or they cheated on me, or whatever it is. And they think they treat me as if I'm that person almost, because that's how they respond. And I'm like, whoa, okay, now it makes sense why they feel this way. I don't tell it to them because they don't listen anyways. They're too busy coming back with whatever it is they want to come back with, because they feel like they have to defend themselves. Now, interestingly, here's a clear, concise observation of minds. Now, I don't do the whole, racial thing, because that's just a bunch of poppycock, and I'll explain that soon. But the interesting thing is that the same people who have clap back and something to say, or they ready to counter because they feel like you're attacking them, they only do it to their own kind or the opposite sex. Yeah. This, you don't believe me? Try it yourself. Test it for yourself. I promise you're going to have 90% chance that I'm right. You're going to be, of course, I can't say everybody's like that, but what I'm saying is 9 out of 10 people that you test this on are going to fall into the category that I'm talking about. Okay? I'm just saying. But yeah, so, yes, I do have to explain what I mean when I'm saying what I mean. And that way you can, have a different perspective on how you receive what I'm saying. And that way you don't feel like I'm sitting here trying to either, force you to believe as I believe, or force you to do what I want you to do, or force you to accept what I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to force anybody to do nothing. I believe you should have a choice. But the thing is, instead of you sitting here receiving it that way, you just kind of automatically reject, because it's not something that you are familiar with. And I know I'm going back and forth in the first person, second person, or whatever, but I'm elevating, guys. It's after work. The sun is still out, even though it's raining. I can't see any sun. It's just daylight still, right? But it is raining. The sky is dark, and I'm elevating. So, yes, I can have that happen sometimes, all right? Don't judge me. Anyways, back on target. So, yes, perception is vital to understanding why people literally just completely, they disagree and argue a lot. I believe that many people argue about stuff that they really agree on, but because they're saying it differently and they're both comprehending things differently, because they didn't study each other's vocabulary and glossary that they each have in their own world, right? So they're missing each other. They're on 2 different pages. But yet they both equally think that the other person understood them just fine. So they didn't feel the need to have to explain, right? Because we all believe that because we speak English, that we should understand each other. And if that were the case, we'd never have an argument, or very rarely, because we'd be able to articulate better. But I digress. So anyways, I just want to give some pointers to the fellas out there who are guilty of feeling like they're always being attacked, or guilty of feeling like somebody's going in on them just because they're telling them something. Like, I don't even like to tell people things because they get so offended, like as if I'm talking to them exactly, or, talking to them personally. Like, first of all, if we just met or we don't really know each other like that, why would you feel that, if I'm talking in general, that it's about you? I know how to say you, this, that, and the other. You do this, that, and the other. You say this, that, and the other. I know how to do that. Many people don't, interestingly, and that's why I guess they speak general, because they don't want to say directly, because somehow they feel like they don't want to be directly offensive, I guess. I don't know. Why don't you address people directly? It literally will be me and one other person talking, right? And then when we're talking, I'll go, well, I blah, 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 because I'm talking about myself, right? Or I'll go, and you blah, 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 or we blah, blah, blah. And then he goes or she goes, well, it's not about you, Fatima. Why you keep saying I? And I'm like, So while we're talking, who should I throw into our conversation? Who should I bring into the conversation? Sally over there, she blah, 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 right? That don't make sense. Of course I'm going to say I. We're talking. You and I are talking. Why wouldn't I say I? Am I supposed to say we? Am I supposed to say our? I mean, I don't understand it personally. I mean, if I say we, then you go, well, you can't speak for me. So I can't say we. I have to say I. I have to distinguish between you and I, right? That's logical. So why is it that so many people have a problem with me saying I when we are talking? But they do that when it comes to me. I don't know if this happens to everybody else, but I'm sharing what happens to me, okay? Another thing is that when I'm sharing things, if I am speaking about something that another person does or I've, identified, they're so quick to be like, I don't do that. I didn't say that. And I'm like, well, yes, you did. And I'll have to recall the whole scenario, scene, and everything so that they can realize that, look, I didn't just pull this out of thin air. I didn't feel like, let me just start an argument with this person today. Let me just make up something and tell them so they can get upset. Of course, who does that, right? Who does that? But the person's response makes you feel like that shouldn't have been done. I mean, or should be done or whatever, right? I don't know. I'm elevating you guys. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm able to get every word articulated properly all the time because it can happen, okay? Jeez, you guys are just so nitpicky. I'm just saying. Not you. I'm talking about them over there, okay? Anyways, so, guys, just take a moment to ask. I know y'all don't like asking questions because you don't want to seem like you don't know because you think you know everything. And if you did not think you knew everything, then you should not have a problem with asking. And yet and still, you will not ask. Why is that? Maybe you should think about that. Another thing. Take a moment and ask the person that you're talking to before you get offended or ready to jump back or clap back or snap back or cuss them out or whatever. Ask them, can you tell me what you mean by that? Because I don't want to assume the wrong thing. You know how simple that is to say? Oh, Fatima, not everybody talk like you, Fatima. That's something that you would say. I'm not that way. Okay, the fact that you're not that way doesn't change the fact that if what you are doing is not working, maybe you should try someone else's way. I'm just saying. Because obviously what you're doing is not working. If you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, that is the definition of insanity. Ask anybody in America. I'm just saying. It's not just me saying this, okay? Anyways, so fellas, please, please, please don't be so quick to be offended by everything that comes out of another person's mouth when they're talking with you, okay? When they're conversing with you. Nobody's talking at you. Nobody's here to make you feel less than. The only person that can do that is you. Only you can make yourself feel less than because it doesn't matter. It should not matter what comes out of someone else's mouth if you don't believe it. If you don't choose to accept what they're saying, right, then it shouldn't even matter what come out of their mouth. The only way you're going to get offended is if you believe it. So think about that next time you're talking to someone who's blatantly being disrespectful or saying something to verbally, challenge you or whatever. And, respond accordingly. But don't always think that you're being talked to or down to or whatever. Don't carry yourself like that. Show that you are not reactive because they expect you to be reactive. Who are they? Those who walk around with a certain level of entitlement, thinking that they can pretty much cry wolf if you show any type of heightened temper or anger in your face or in your voice. I mean, you're already intimidating enough just based on your look. So if you speak and you have too deep a bass or your voice is a little too loud, they're going to be fearful for their lives. And then when they react and decide to pull a gun out, shoot you, or call the police, they really, truly are fearful and they really think you might hurt them. So they have been given the right and authority and authorization and permission to call for help or defend themselves. And you might not even be in that mindset. You might just be speaking in your normal voice, but you just have a high voice. You might be passionately expressing something that you maybe are going through or experience or whatever, but because your face scrunched up, now they looking like scared. Think about it. It's, this is why I feel that guys who have deep voices and who are tall aren't hired a lot of times in businesses, because they're already fearful of those beings. So they hire the shorter guys, the thinner guys, the smaller guys, or the guys who have less bass in their voice, and guys who wear glasses, right? And this is just scientific proven fact. You don't have to believe me. If you pay attention to any commercialized company, any corporation that's out there, major corporation, not talking about these little bitty companies, talking about most major corporations or whatever, look at the people that they have working for them, and either they're described as what I said, or their sexual preference is same sex, and those ones aren't a threat to them, so they don't worry about those either. You see, so because of that, I understand how you guys can be misunderstood, so I make it a personal effort to not allow myself to be put off by your expressions of passion when you're talking. Even if you're upset about something, I don't take it like you're upset at me. Whatever you're talking about, and it doesn't bother me like that. I was trained a long time ago by a guy who was 6'3" to between 6'3" and 6'5". He was one of those heights, and he was 265 pounds. So I had training on how to handle body weight for a very long time. So I am not fearful anyways of a guy or somebody who's identified as being, what is the word I'm looking for? Threatening looking, right? Like, I don't care what you look like. If you are in my presence, then my energy is going to overpower your energy anyways. Okay? I'm just saying. Yes, so, I listen and I ask questions because I really truly want to understand when I'm interacting with males who are of the darker skinned complexion and males of the lighter skinned complexions as well. Another thing that I've observed is that lighter skinned males who are still identified as non-European, those particular types of guys are a little even worse than the darker skinned ones, believe it or not. As a matter of fact, the lighter the skin, the more sense of entitlement that they naturally have, and feel like because they're lighter skinned that somehow they should be treated better, accepted, and honestly, interestingly enough, they were at one point. Like I said, if you check out any of these major corporations, the skin tones of the guys that work there usually are going to be either light skin. They're definitely not going to be tall. They're going to be, thin, or either thin or super, super big, like heavyweight, right? Because again, they're paying, they hire based on these particular types of things because they don't want to feel threatened. And then they're only going to have maybe 2 or 3 of you guys maybe working for the company, depending on how large it is, because they don't want ever to be a situation where they feel threatened once again. I'm not saying anything that cannot be validated or verified by anybody, especially if you live in America, where I live, but I'm sure it happens all over the world, okay? I'm speaking in general because this is a human thing. This is not a black, white, or yellow, red, or whatever. It's literally a human thing. And the whole separation of colors and all of that stuff for purposes of keeping people divided has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm speaking about one's mentality, one's personality, one's character traits that they exhibit and act out. Anybody in any skin tone can relate or should be able to relate to what I'm saying, because again, I'm trying to keep things non-specific in the form of describing, except when I do, like, specifically bring it out. Most of my life, I've interacted with darker skinned males in America, right? And when I say darker skinned, I mean those who are identified as African Americans or Black Americans or Black people or whatever, right? I will say that I have interacted with other cultures as well, but majority of my interactions have been with those types of guys. So I can only speak on what I've experienced and know of in this particular lifetime, okay? And all I'm doing is just giving you my experience. I'm just one person, so please don't be trying to sit here and be like, oh, Fatima's trying to, force me to believe what she believes. I'm not sharing something that I want you to believe. I'm sharing some things with you, and if you cannot see it for yourself, if you're not able to resonate with what I'm saying, you probably shouldn't be listening to me anyways, because the message probably is not for you, right? I'm just saying. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to shut this down, because I'm trying to keep my little things as short as possible. I'm trying not to go too far to the right or the left, and be able to get out a full, thought at the same time. So hopefully I've given enough, to work with, and hopefully you guys can, take a moment to introspect, self-reflect, and go within and see if any of the things that I've spoken on applies to you. And if you can't see it because it's you, ask someone else. Hey, do you think I do this? Do you feel like I'm this way? Right? Do you feel like I'm combative? Do you feel like I'm defensive? Do you feel like I get offended easily? Ask other people, and they'll tell you. They might not say anything if you don't ask, because, people just like that. They'll just let you be. But if you ask, and don't get mad when they say it either, because that's another thing. Don't ask for something if you really don't want to hear the truth or hear the answer. Because people will, because it doesn't resonate with what they want to believe, they will literally get mad if they hear something that's opposite of what they truly want to believe or accept. So if you ask something and the answer does not, agree with you, then ask them, well, why do you feel that way? And then they'll break it down to you why they feel that way, as opposed to getting upset and angry and wanting to be like, well, you do this and you do that. Because that's usually what their response is. They're quick to want to point something out about you so that they don't feel like they're the only ones under attack. I mean, this is literally what I've experienced. And so instead of being like, wow, I didn't know you felt that way, what exactly, can you give me some examples of what I've done to make you feel that way? Instead of them asking those types of questions, they just want to quickly jump and be defensive and go in defense mode and, justify, or not, just all because they don't want to apologize. That's another thing that I've noticed about these particular guys. They don't like to apologize. They don't like to admit they're wrong. And I don't know where all of these different types of things come from, but this is common. This isn't something that I'm saying, oh, this is a one-off or only a few people do that. No, this is common across the board. Yeah. So because Black men, African American men, or just dark-skinned men, period, because they are so obstinate and stubborn and, closed off to most things that does not, resonate with them. And when I say resonate with them, I mean, if it's not what they believe, if it's not what they, like or whatever, everything else is against them. You're an enemy. It's crazy. It's my world. It's got to be about me. That's how they act. I'm serious. And if you don't agree with them, now they got a problem. Like, this is just, and that's really a primitive, unevolved way to think. I'm not here to criticize or call anybody, something outside of the truth. If I acknowledge some of your traits and characteristics and behaviors, and you can be like, oh, wow, I do that. I didn't know that's how people think of me. Like I said before, ask. But most people don't care to ask because they don't want to know, and they don't want to hear someone else tell them something that they didn't know again, right? And then if, now they have to feel like, oh, well, so I ain't changing because that's just how I am. And first of all, nobody's telling you to change, but if you are happy with being the way you are, knowing that it's not progressive, it's not stable in thinking, Wouldn't you want to fix that and correct that for yourself, not for other people? People quick to be like, I ain't changing for nobody. Please don't change for anybody. Change for yourself. You should always be seeking to improve, not stay stuck and stagnant. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, let me go. I'm already at 25 minutes. Thank you so much for listening. This is Fatima, a.k.a. the Goddess, Aliyara. You're listening to Fatima Logic Radio. I am your host, and this is where I come on and speak about things that many people don't like to speak about. The things that I talk about are human-based, are human experiences, has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with skin tone, has nothing to do with nationality, has nothing to do with what part of the world you come from or live in. Okay? It's about human experiences, and I feel that the things that I talk about, anybody should be able to relate to, or they know someone who can relate. So if you're listening to this and you have been touched by what I've said, been triggered, been enlightened, been, entertained, or been learn something new, then please, one, share it with other people so that way they can experience, some type of positive effect as well. And then two, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Fatima-Aliyara TV. Or you can also add me on Instagram under the real Fatima Aliyara. And I also am on TikTok and Snapchat. Under Snapchat, I'm under Alien Universe, I believe. Or is it Fatima Aliyah? Oh my gosh. I think it's Fatima-Aliyah. I think that's what it is. So am I missing anything? Oh, and if you would like to support me and become a patron, I am on Patreon as well. Fatima-Aliyara TV. Or you can send me a love offering, a gift of gratitude, energy exchange, whatever you wish to call it, to my Cash App. And that is Fatima, F as in Frank, A-T-I, M as in Mary, A-H as in Ham, Aliyah, A as in Apple, L as in Lima, I-Y-A. So that $ Fatima Aliyah, and I will receive your love offering or gifts of gratitude in love, and thank you very much, because I feel that when people exchange energies, there's no one being robbed, right? Have you ever heard the saying, even exchange ain't no robbery, or something like that, or whatever? Basically, what they're saying is when two people exchange energies of whatever kind, whether it's money for goods or money for services, or, an offering in the church plate because they received a good word from the deliverer. It's the same difference. If you are, if you've received a positive impact in some kind of way, even if it's triggered you and triggered some things about you that you need to address, but ultimately it's helping you to grow, it's helping you to expand and spiritually elevate and all of those things. If it's going to help open your eyes to some things so that you can become a better person, why not share the love, pay it forward, and show gratitude to the person who you got that from? And that's why I give out my Cash App, and I do accept love offerings and gifts of gratitude, because we all should be rewarded for our, the things that we say and do. I mean, if pastors can get tithes and offering for their sermons, why can't someone else who has given you something of value? If the things that I say are valuable to you, then exchanging value for value is normal, and it should be expected. You feel me? So instead of thinking that it's okay to cheat other people by taking, and then you wonder why you're experiencing lack, that's usually why. You receive when you give. That's just the normal process of nature. That's universal law. If you wish to receive, you must give, so that it can come back to you. Whatever action you put out is going to come back. Remember, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's the same difference. It's universal law, and that is the same difference, except some human being decided to put their spin on it and